It will automatically get recorded. Yeah,
Oh,
started. Wonderful.
Hare Krishna.
Wonderful. Hare Krishna. And Prabhuji, Mangala Charan also someone has to say, and then you
Mangalacharan.
can. Yeah.
Mangalacharan. Um, Mangalacharan is anybody want to do? Hare Krishna Mataji Prabhuji. Mangalacharan. Okay. ॐ अञ्जानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवां च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातम् सकगण रघुनाथान् विदां तं सुजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सकगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान् विदां च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्द राधाकान्द नमस्तुते सप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधा वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभय एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे राम राम हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे राम राम हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम राम हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण माता जी प्रभु जी
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
last day we discussed these Prabhupada lessons. Anybody want to share something? Some points from the last discussion. Last we discussed regarding the Prabhupada's health going down, went down because Prabhupada initially planned something and for health improvement to went Rishikesh and come back to Vrindavana. At Vrindavana, Kamala Krishna, his 6 month uh, disciple who seeing the Prabhupada's total health, the Prabhupada's health deteriorated at Vrindavana. Daily, two disciples coming and making him the rock chair. Uh, for one person from front side and another person the back side, and first in front of Gauranitai, he made obeisances, and then Krishna Balram, then second obeisances, and third Radha Shyam Sundara obeisances, and then sitting and seeing the devotees. And whatever the daily activities that one seeing and the hot summer surpassed during the June month, and then Prabhupada felt very sick and less appetite. And then in the July month, the rain started pouring, downpouring, and then the climate went very nicely, and the peacocks cooing and these other peacock action narrated in the book. And then whatever the Prabhupada actions and regarding the publishing the books. The name I forgot, one who is a GBC member in charge of North and Eastern Europe, Arikesha, and 13 languages the book is publishing, Krishna Trilogies, Srimad Bhagavatam, and in Vrindavana, after the downpouring start, Prabhupada went to writing this Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th and 9th chapter of 10th canto, and then Prabhupada had some health issues. This way the narration is going on. And Tamala Krishna advised Prabhupada, when you go west, towards America, there you can find some uh, good health improvement, because there ISKCON land and prasadam eating and meeting devotees and doing some kirtana, your health will improve. So that in Calcutta, another disciple arranged his passport and keep it ready in the green card, American green card, they will arrange to get for traveling. And in between that, Prabhupada stay will in the London. And after Janmashtami, which will come in the September 6 only, he is willing to go travel. And then these things was ready. Prabhupada also make up his mind and went to London. And 2 weeks before the Janmashtami, he reached there. And there he was not recuperated completely, because there problems arises more. Then all the people discussed with GBC and his disciple Tamala Krishna discussed. Again, they instead of going to America, US, they planned to return to Bombay. That way they planned again. They come Prabhupada come to Bombay and for recuperation. And in the Bombay, he find something, because health day by day deteriorating and the health is not improving, and he had the book printing news and he was very happy. There in between that and Vrindavana, I forgot to tell one thing, the Julana Yatra, which was mostly done by the in mid-August by the Rajasthan devotees, and they came and they started Julana Yatra, and that time Prabhupada also uh, Radha Shyam Sundara temple, just attend the function also. So in the Bombay, whatever the things happening, and 23 GBC members, they came to Bombay and they started to pray for Prabhupada's improvement. Whatever the Prabhupada mind set up at Bombay, please call me Krishna, like that, Prabhupada himself. And somewhere, whatever the dictation of Prabhupada in the dictaphone, that was compared to the Gargamuni, who is giving the name filling ceremony for the Krishna. That way the narration went there. And in the Bombay, rest of the things, what will happen, we see and we read in the whatever the narration in the written in the book, and I will just share the screen now. I think page 354 we read. From here we have to start, I think. Despite an earlier promise. Who is going to read? Ali Mataji, can you read? despite an earlier promise.
Wait. Yes.
Alli Mataji, please read.
It's not coming, Mother. He lost.
I will read. Despite an earlier promise to live, Srila Prabhupada said his life was still in Krishna's hand. Everything was his free choice. It didn't mean he was absolutely independent. Rather, the pure devotee's attitude is to freely surrender to Krishna. Whatever happens, in the mood of the gopis, the foremost devotees of Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed, "You may handle me roughly in your embrace or make me broken hearted by not being present before me, but you are always my worshipable Lord." Unconditionally, because the exchanges between the Lord and his pure devotees are always supremely personal. Both the Lord and his devotees express desires and individual will. In his childhood Leela, Krishna sometimes breaks Mother Yashoda's butter pot, and sometimes he allows her to catch him and blind him. In any case, the will of the Lord and the will of the devotees are always one in interest, and they are sometimes expressed in the form of a loving conflict. Similarly, although Srila Prabhupada had promised his devotees that he would stay in the world and defy death, he still remained surrendered to the will of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada had already expressed his surrender in the prayer he had given his disciple to offer on his behalf. My dear Lord Krishna, if you desire, please cure Srila Prabhupada. By the phrase, if you desire, he was reminding his followers of the supreme prerogative of Krishna and was asking them to abide by it. Although he was also giving them an acceptable way to petition Krishna, in a similar case in 1967, he had given his disciples another prayer. My master has not finished his work. He had said then that Krishna had responded to his prayer, granting the wishes of the devotee. Srila Prabhupada himself was responding to the devotee's prayer, and Krishna had given him the choice. But as surrendered soul, Srila Prabhupada waited for further developments, ever sensitive to Krishna's desire, as Prabhupada had said when invited by Krishnananda Kirtananda to come to his palace in New Vrindavan. Let us see which place I am going to. As a loving tension can sometimes exist between the Supreme Lord and his pure devotee, so now a similar tension existed between Srila Prabhupada and his followers. Prior to his disciples, desperate petition at his bedside, Srila Prabhupada had seen his duty as instructing his disciples in how to die. Part of his mission was set to the perfect example in this most important lesson, how to pass life's ultimate test. But now his disciples were asking him to postpone the lesson in dying and stay with them indefinitely in the breaching field. And Prabhupada had agreed, showing that he had the ability to live it, he chose. But sooner or later, he would have to return to the lesson of how a person should face the end of life. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yagambarao Prabhuji, could you read?
Yes, page number.
356. One special feature. Yagambar Prabhuji.
Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Madam. One special feature.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One special feature of Srila Prabhupada's activities is relating intimately to the human condition while at the same time remaining always aloof and transcendental. As a pure devotee, he was not subjected to the law of karma, which awards reactions for pious and sinful deeds. He was not born by the force of karma, nor would he die by force of karma. As stated by Srila Rupa Goswami, one whose body, mind, and words are fully engaged in devotional service to Lord Krishna is a liberated soul, even while living in this world. People often misunderstand the movements of a pure devotee within the material world, just as one, on seeing clouds blowing past the moon, may think the moon itself is moving. The Shastra therefore warns us never to see the Guru as an ordinary man subject to karma. But Srila Prabhupada, while always transcendental to this world, showed the conditioned souls how they too could come to the stage of liberation by constantly thinking about Krishna and serving him, so that at the time of death they could return to Krishna in the eternal spiritual world. And Prabhupada's lessons were always practical and universal. Srila Prabhupada's books, for example, were not mere theory, but were practical and full of realized knowledge. And Prabhupada practiced what he preached. His entire life was exemplary. He had been in family life, and even then, he had vigorously preached by starting his Back to Godhead magazine. In poverty and obscurity, he had struggled to start a spiritual movement, and by the grace of Krishna and his spiritual master, he had become successful. He had always shown by his human like attempts his willingness to bravely take on austerity and face danger. He had shown exemplary spiritual life for all to try and follow. He had gone alone in old age to a foreign country and had chanted Hare Krishna in a place in New York City, attracting the young men and women of America. Therefore, everyone should take his example and try to serve Krishna despite the immediate impediments. Srila Prabhupada encountered obstacles, yet by his free will and the help of Krishna, he surmounted them. This was a wonderful example. It is said that Lord Chaitanya, 500 years ago, made surrender to Krishna more attainable than Lord Krishna had 5,000 years ago. And now, in the 20th century, Srila Prabhupada has made Krishna consciousness possible for people all over the world.
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yagambar Prabhuji, could you read? Able to read?
Yes, as part of the instruction, and example, Srila Prabhupada knew he would have to show people just how to die. He had escaped death a number of times by Krishna's grace, by the prayers of his disciples. But from the signs given to him by Lord Krishna in 1977, Srila Prabhupada began decisively and conclusively ending his mission in the material world. And among his final duties was his giving complete guidelines on how to die. He was perfectly showing how to do that which everyone has to do, but which is most difficult to do successfully, die. But a loving conflict was there. Prabhupada loved his disciples. He also knew they were not yet fully mature. His movement already had great potency and stature in the world, and yet it had many enemies. He was inclined to always protect his devotees, his movement, and all living entities, even the animals. So when his most intimate and faithful disciples pleaded that they could not go on without him, he had turned from showing how to die, agreeing to stay with them and free. But at that point, who would they be willing to let him go? At what point could he stay that the world of Maya and the enemies of Krishna were all gone? At that point, would his disciples become fully mature? In following his decision to stay, Srila Prabhupada turned himself over to his disciples, allowing them to care for him completely. Those who took part recalled that never before had Srila Prabhupada honored such intimate dealings between himself and his disciples. The only thing comparable was in New York in 1966 when he had been very intimate in dealing with the first persons to join him, persons who had known nothing of the etiquette of approaching a spiritual master. But those who were present now and who had also been present then said that these days were even more intimate. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Valli Mataji, could you read? Able to read?
From one point, as Mata Prabhuji, at one point.
Yeah, yes, Mataji. At
At
one
one point, Kirtananda firmly insisted that Srila Prabhupada drink a full cup of juice, even when he said he had enough. Kirtananda felt awkward insisting. I am not like Mother Yashoda that I can do this, he said. I keep remembering that you are my spiritual master. But Srila Prabhupada allowed himself to be ordered by Kirtananda. Similarly, Bhavananda, Tamala Krishna, Bhakti Karu, Pendra, and other servants coaxed Srila Prabhupada to follow certain diets and cared for his body constantly. The other devotees were reminded of the story of Ishvara Puri, who gave intimate body service to his spiritual master, Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra,
When
Mahendra,
Madhavendra.
When Madhavendra was in the last stages of his life and apparently invalid. According to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it was by his menial body service that Ishvara Puri proved his love for his spiritual master and was followed to become the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya. Srila Prabhupada had deferred the lessons in dying in favor of giving his disciples an unparalleled opportunity to serve him in pure and simple love. And he loved this not only for a few, but for but whoever came to Vrindavana. Many came and all were allowed to enter Sri Prabhupada's room, Srila Prabhupada's room, massage his body and sit with him as long as they liked day and night, chanting the holy name for his pleasure. Srila Prabhupada, who recommended his translating, and this was done openly, whereas previously he had always worked in solitude. He now encouraged all devotees to come as he lay in bed, dictating his Bhakti Vedanta purports. A devotee would softly read the Sanskrit text to him, while another held a microphone to his mouth, his voice sometimes barely audible. Srila Prabhupada would speak awestruck. The disciples watched as the spiritual master worked. His, uh, his thoughts were clear. He cited from memory references from various scriptures, and his philosophical exposition was rigorous. Prabhupada was giving himself completely and declaring it also, telling the devotees present, never leave me, and I cannot live without your company. They had asked him to stay, and he had agreed, consigning himself completely to their care. Those who were blessed to have this service felt themselves passing passing over all barriers of reluctance to serve as well as all barriers of material desire. By intimately serving Srila Prabhupada, they felt the strength of complete surrender and sensed that he would sustain them always, even when Srila Prabhupada eventually did depart from the world. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mother. Thank you, Mother. Hare Krishna, Tattva Prabhuji, could you able to read? Or Pushpa Mataji, could you able to read? Okay. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada also continued speaking as he had in recent months about being unafraid of death and being fixed in transcendental knowledge. When receiving a presentation of some of his books, recently printed in Portuguese by Hridayananda Goswami, Prabhupada encouraged him and said, "This is life. The material world is just bones. The bones are not our real life. Our real concern is the living force. The bones may remain or go. It doesn't matter. The real life is sustaining the bones. There is even a history that there was a Arsi who had only bones. Rishi. So there is a science by which you can sustain life by only bones. Hiranyakashipu did it. You are also doing it. Srila Prabhupada, Tamala Krishna said, so take care of the bones as long as possible, said Prabhupada. But the real life is here. Always remember that the material world means we are simply all protecting bones and flesh together. But they have no knowledge of what they are. And when Atriya Rishi visited Srila Prabhupada and asked that he visit Tehran, Prabhupada said that he was ready to go, but now you have to take a bundle of bones. These were, of course, the same themes that Prabhupada had always taught, the same themes that were in his books, but the lessons were more poignant and striking when Prabhupada applied them to his own situation. More than one devotee compared Prabhupada to Bhishma Deva, who have important instruction in the last days, as Bhishma felt no pain and delivered land and loving discourses even from his bed of arrows, and as Bhishma determined by his own free will the times of his departure from the world. So Srila Prabhupada spent his last days oblivious to his physical condition, defying death and instructing his spiritual innocent sons. But Prabhupada's sons would no longer stand by and simply hear the philosophical lessons. Prabhupada had accepted their affection when they had cried for him to stay with them, and now they wanted to express that affection in the only world they understood, a world with Srila Prabhupada living and talking with them, laughing and reprimanding them as he liked. They wanted him to eat and drink and become physically strong again. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Bhagyalatri Mataji, could you read?
I tried, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
You please try, Mother.
Thank
But
you, Prabhuji.
again,
But I some slow reader, Prabhuji.
no problem, Mataji. Please start today. Good day.
Okay, Prabhuji. But again, Srila Prabhupada seemed to change and he began refusing food and drink. He had postponed postpone his passing away to exchange lovingly with his disciple and wait at the same time by refusing to eat or drink. He was showing his performance for preference for passing away. He had admitted when press, when pressed that it was an impossible co- co-
Course of action.
course of action to live without food action to live without food or drink, nor did he expect or want miracle. If he was to get better, it would be by taking
Taking nourishment.
Nourishment, but for reasons of his own, he would not eat. He said recovery was material and he did not want it. He kept closely in tone with tune with the will of Krishna, allowing the holy name to sustain him. Sustain him. Sorry, Prabhuji. I was nervous.
Mataji, no problem. Best you read.
The doctors who came were often puzzled, but those who were Vaishnava understood and respected his recognized
Prerogative.
prerogative.
No problem, Mataji. Please read.
Prabhupada's servants made anxiety filled attempts to induce Prabhupada to take regular treatment, but Prabhupada preferred to take only Kirtana and Bhagavatam while at the same time sustaining a willingness to live. He empathized with his disciple anxiety and patiently explained the puzzling situation they were in. He wanted their care and he allowed them to try to treat him, knowing that it was bringing them more and more into a surrender of love. But gradually it became more clear that Krishna's will was indicating Prabhupada's departure. Srila Prabhupada departures. Srila Prabhupada Bhavananda
Folks.
Sorry, Prabhuji. Always
Mataji, no problem. You please read. No problem. You please read.
Always working on the
Assumption
that Prabhupada could stay if he wanted. Your presence on this planet in the only thing that's keeping the onslaught of the
Kali Yuga.
Onslaught of the Kali Yuga. From really taking effect. We have no idea even what will happen if you leave. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dhanyawad, Prabhuji. Sorry, Prabhuji.
Okay, Mother. Thank you, Mataji. Mataji,
Thank
daily
you.
one paragraph, three paragraph, if you proceed, then progressive will happen, no problem. Don't
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
don't underestimate you. Please start reading, no problem.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna. Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Mataji.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Lakshmi Mataji, could you able to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. It is not in my hands, said Srila Prabhupada with perfect clarity of consciousness. Krishna Balrama. Srila Prabhupada always spoke clearly, logically, and with complete devotion to Krishna. Up until the last, he dealt with practical matters, forming a Bhaktivedanta Swami charity trust for reconstructing ancient temples in Bengal and arranging final details regarding ISKCON properties and monies. Through all dealings, he stayed always alert and he absorbed himself in Kirtana and Bhagavatam. But it became obvious to his disciples that, despite his promise, he was again moving inevitably towards giving the final lesson. He was teaching that love was beyond death, that a disciple's love could call the spiritual master back to the world to stay, and that a pure devotee has the ability to stay in the world beyond his allotted time. Meanwhile, however, he was progressing steadily to the final point. Devotees didn't feel angry with him or cheated that he was doing so. He had told he had told them that he had free will given by Krishna, and they also, by their free will, had asked him to stay, and he had agreed. But they knew he was not obliged. If, despite their prayers, Lord Krishna was telling Srila Prabhupada that he should come back home to Godhead, what could they do but accept? If Srila Prabhupada was accepting, then they would accept also. Nothing, however, could change the fact of their surrendered love. It had now become a solid pact that could not be vanquished by any material changes. They had passed the test of eternal loving service, and that could not be taken away by death. Up until the end, there were interludes of sweetness as well as displays of Prabhupada's indomitable mood of fighting for Krishna. One day, Prabhupada's sister Pisima arrived unexpectedly, and Prabhupada asked her to cook kichari. At that time, Kirtanananda was trying to put Prabhupada on the road to recovery by gradually increasing his liquids, and Kirtanananda and the other devotees opposed the idea of his suddenly eating solid foods. But Srila Prabhupada insisted. It doesn't matter whether what she cooks does good to me or bad, said Srila Prabhupada. She is a Vaishnavi. It will be good for me. He then began speaking in an extremely humble way. Probably I became a little puffed up because of my opulence and success, he said. Now God has shattered that pride. If you don't have your body, what is there to be puffed up about? Bhakti Charu protested. Srila Prabhupada, whatever you have done for Krishna. That may be, but in this world, unknowingly you commit offenses. When Pishima heard this, she exclaimed, No, no, he never committed any offense. You cannot ever commit offenses, said Bhakti Charu. You are God's very dear one. How can you commit offenses? I'm a little temperamental, said Srila Prabhupada. I used to use words like rascal and so on. I never compromised. They used to call it a club in one hand and a Bhagavatam in the other. That is how I preach. Anyway, make arrangements for my sister. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Yagambara Prabhuji, could you able to read?
Sure. There were also visits from Srila Prabhupada's God brothers, and again Prabhupada asked forgiveness for his offenses. One time, Ni- Nishikri- Nishikina Chana Krishna Dasa Babaji, Puri Maharaj, Asama Maharaj, and Ananda Prabhu, Purushottama Brahmachari, and about 20 others came and sat next to Prabhupada's bed. He was resting when they arrived, and they joined the Krishna Kirtana until he awoke. When he saw them, he asked to be raised up. Sitting, sitting in the center of his bed with his god brothers all around, he addressed them. All over the world, there is a beautiful field to preach Krishna consciousness, he said. I don't care whether I would be successful or not. People are willing to take. They are all taking also. If we preach together, the saying of Mahaprabhu, Tvite will come true. We have everything spread and spread the holy name and distribute prasadam. There is a beautiful field in Africa, in Russia, everywhere they are accepting. When Prabhupada began again asking his God brothers to forgive him, they protested, "You are the eternal leader." One of them asserted, "You rule over us, guide us, and chastise us. Forgive all my offenses." Prabhupada repeated, "I became proud of all my opponents." "No," said Puri Maharaja, "you never became proud. When you started pitching opulence and success followed you. That was the blessing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Krishna. There cannot be any question of your being offensive." When Srila Prabhupada termed himself as Mahapatita, greatly fallen, Puri Maharaja did not accept it. "You have saved millions of people around the world," he said. "Therefore, there is no question of offense. But you should be called Mahapatita Pavana, the great savior of the fallen." Prabhupada's disciple regarded Prabhupada asking for his God brothers' forgiveness as a manifestation of his humility, but they were also puzzled. Certainly, Prabhupada's God brothers were sincere in saying Prabhupada had committed no offense. Whatever he had done for Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada was also sincere in asking for forgiveness. That was the beautiful gem of his humility, to ask everyone for forgiveness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Valli Mataji, could you able to read?
The purpose of preaching, displaying this gem had not always been the most effective way to spread the merciful teachings of Lord Krishna in every town and village. But now it could be displayed in Krishna in every it could be displayed in London and now in Vrindavana. Prabhupada was showing his disciples extra affection and gratitude without the reprimands usually necessary in training disciples. This attitude of complete humility was a symptom of the highest stage of devotional life. Srila Prabhupada had explained in his books that the Madhyama Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, the second class devotee, makes distinctions between the devotees, the innocent non-devotees, and the demons, whereas the Mahabhagavata or first class devotee sees everyone except himself as a servant of God. Sometimes, however, the Mahabhagavata desire to come down from the first class platform just to take up the most compassionate service of preaching Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada's disciples had all read of the Mahabharata stage in the scriptures, and now they were seeing it fully displayed as Prabhupada referred to himself as the most fallen and asked for everyone's forgiveness. Srila Prabhupada had heard of the program of his disciple Lokanatha Swami, who was taking a small group of men on a bullock cart and preaching in villages throughout India. Lokanatha had told Srila Prabhupada how in the course of their travels they had recently visited tirthas such as Badrikashrama and Beam Kapoor. Srila Prabhupada was enlivened to hear this, and he then evolved a transcendental desire to go himself on a cart pulled by bullocks to circumambulate the area of Vrindavana. Kamalakrishna and Bhavananda, who were serving Prabhupada with increased intimacy, felt themselves unable to support Srila Prabhupada in his desire, since they thought his fragile body could not survive such rough treatment on the roads. But Srila Prabhupada reasoned that dying on parikrama is glorious. He asked them to take him. A controversy developed among the devotees, and some said Prabhupada's will to go on parikrama should be immediately honored as an order from the spiritual master. He wanted it, and he should not be denied. The doctor, however, assured them that Srila Prabhupada's body would not survive the jostling of the cart. The many devotees who crowded around Srila Prabhupada's bed held different opinions, and Prabhupada could see this. Following his request, however, Lokanatha went out and hired a cart with bullocks and prepared it for the ride. Lokanatha and Hamsadatta suggested that the parikrama could go to the city of Vrindavana or visit the 7 main temples of the Goswamis. But then they said the since the next day was Govardhana Puja, Prabhupada could go to Govardhana Hill. Kamalakrishna, Bhavananda, and Bhakti Garu, however, protested adamantly against the parikrama. One
Hare
day,
Krishna, thank you, Mataji. Thank you, ma'am.
thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranams.
Dandavat pranam. Hare Krishna, Mataji, Prabhuji. Today we stopped at 364 page. Whatever this last instruction Prabhupada is going to giving this, and this discussion is going on with Prabhupada and his disciples, and everything is going, and the narration is went till death of Srila Prabhupada, till the disappearance of Prabhupada. Yes, we don't need to tell the acharyas. Disappearance is the correct word only. So tomorrow we will meet again, and what will happen, the balanced pages, and what the thing was done by the GBC members, which they are holding the position in the 23 GBC members, and Tamara Krishna, who is staying till the last breath of Srila Prabhupada, and what are other disciples, and comparing what are the things we will let us see in the tomorrow class. And today we will stop here. And Hare Krishna, thank you, Mataji and Prabhuji. And
Thank you so
Lakshmi
much.
Mataji, don't shy to read, because whenever we read, we will find the new words that will one thing habitual comes, then it will be easy to you. And we are not the native speakers of English, so we don't bother about much. We start to read, and we should start, and we should progressive for the reading club. Reading club is formed for our betterment only, for knowing the activities of Srila Prabhupada, activities of the ISKCON movement, for first how Srila Prabhupada gave his hand for the ISKCON movement, and what we have to do for the movement, what our contribution can do for the ISKCON movement. That way we should think. Thank you, Mataji, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Pancha kalpatarubhasya kripa sindhubhaya eva cha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Krishna
Thank you,
Mataji.
sir. Dandavat pranams, Prabhuji. Mataji.
Dandavat pranams.
हरे कृष्ण। दंडवत प्रणाम माताजी। प्रभु जी।
So beautifully you have taken the class, Prabhuji.
No problem, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you for.
Hare